So first off, I want to say thanks to everybody who was like, yeah, just do the video that comes more naturally and wait for Black Zarak, because that makes my life a whole lot easier, and I was actually able to write a lot about this toy. 5 pages of script to be exact. Mine are normally like 2 at most. Now I've seen a lot of hate towards this toy, and a lot of people who were very surprised that I wanted one so bad, and I'll explain why later. But like, I've seen loads of people talk about how this is the worst Optimus Prime, and yes, it is bad in a lot of aspects. Plus, I bet the designers had such a short deadline for this thing that ended up making it look like this. But there are a lot of worse Optimus Primes out there. Something being the worst can be both subjective and objective, and as a lot of the things on my videos, they are subjective, so this one will be too, but I cannot deny the fact that this Prime isn't great. It's not. It's just not. At best, it's alright, but that's probably about it. But back on the bad Primes thing, there were way more than just this that I think are actually a lot worse than this. You got Transcan, Movie 1 Legion, the actual leader from Age of Extinction isn't much better. The Last Night Dark of the Moon Prime looks ugly. Sons of Cybertron Optimus, Titanium Optimus, Combinivores to a certain extent, that one Asia exclusive hybrid one, Silver Knight Deluxe, RM-01 Prime, PlayStation Prime, Alternators Prime, Built to Rule Prime, Shoe Prime, GTR Prime, Construct Bots Prime, and Snowballimus. Like, you got a load of other bad Primes out there, some even worse than this, a lot worse than this, but this one definitely is on or slightly above that list. It's still not the best Prime out there. So this was released as a sort of preview figure, I use that in air quotes, because the first 4 films had toys like that. You had the protoforms from the first movie. I believe it was a deluxe Bumblebee for Revenge of the Fallen, though I could be wrong. Then for Dark of the Moon, there was a preview Prime. It was a Cyberverse Commander that came with 3D glasses. And then for Age of Extinction, you got this. And then we never got anything else for The Last Night or Bumblebee, unfortunately. Now, this toy was announced officially, I believe, after the actual Age of Extinction leader, but it came out before, which leads me to believe that this guy had a very tough deadline, thus it ended up looking and feeling a bit rushed. When the designers were asked questions like, where should we put the chrome? I don't know, anywhere. What color should the weapons be? I don't know, whatever we have, yellow, I guess, etc, etc. Also, on a side note, there are some of these out there, like the normal blue versions, with silver painted weapons and swords, and then some without. Emgo, Pia, Balt, and all the promo images and the box art and instructions for this guy have the silver shield. Mine, a bunch of other photos that I found on Google of people buying this back in 2014, and TTPM toy reviews all had just plain yellow shield swords, like just the plain ones. So I don't know if this is like a second run, an error, or a variant, or just some random thing, but this is the authentic toy. I made sure to check when I saw that yellow shield. So I'll bore you with the story of why I wanted this later, because you're probably really just here to know what I think of the toy or just to see the toy if you haven't seen the millions of other videos of this guy out there. But First Edition Prime here is a leader, and a massive one at that. This was the year Transformers were more simple than previous years due to parent complaints, children finding them too tough, bunch of other stuff, etc, etc. And this is also the year Hasbro started putting the number of steps on the back of the box. But the toy on looks alone is, well, it's not accurate, that's for starters. Ignoring the giant backpack for a second, it's based on concept art, because the chest, the sword, the shield, the feet, the arms, the shins are all concept art parts. But the plastic itself actually looks really good, and it feels really good. That's one thing I was very surprised about. The toy actually feels sturdy. Nothing on it feels like it's gonna break, at least for me, because Age of Extinction saw a massive dip in the plastic quality. Kind of reminds me of like 2007 Lego. And here, it's not really that apparent. The plastic feels really nice for an Age of Extinction toy, and I'm super happy because, you know, I wouldn't want to break this thing. I'm just gonna get to the backpack right now though, because it sticks out like a sore thumb. But it's there and it's not great, but honestly I like it more than the actual leader that we got for the main line, because that one was a hollow mess with like all this bits hanging off of it. This one's more contained. It's not great either way, but there was no way for this price that it was going for that they had the time to design like challenger levels of clean transformation. Which reminds me, this and the mainline leader have this weird effect on me because I've played with, messed with, and seen those primes with the backpack more than without the backpack, that looking at Challenger, I have to remind myself that the toy isn't supposed to have kibble on the back. Because whenever I look at Challenger, it looks weird. But that's just my brain being weird because I'm so used to seeing this prime with stuff on the back. Even the Last Night Voyager had stuff on the back. And then you look at Challenger and to me, it just seems off not having anything there. It's just a weird effect that this toy has on my brain because I'm just so used to it. and then Challenger came out. It was the first clean Knight Optimus that came out. The head is too smushed. I do wish he had mouth plate, because this just doesn't look good. It looks like, you know, that thing that parents do where they go, "Hi, my name is Chubba," and they like squeeze their cheeks. That's what this looks like. And the chrome. Oh my god, the chrome. Chrome can either look like it's done well or extremely tacky. And here it's tacky. It's on the chest, the thighs, and the shoulders, but the blue paint doesn't really stick well to the chrome and it looks terrible. The shoulder pads are half blue, half chrome. They should have painted the top of the shoulder pads if they wanted to, but they didn't. Also, it isn't 5mm compatible, and at the time, 5mm was the standard for most toys, but this one's, I think, is like 6mm. It's a little bigger, so that's a really weird choice. He can't hold any other guns that I give him, nor can that peg on the side of the sword do anything on this toy. But I don't know, I love picking this up, and it just feels very good. Like, it's hard to describe, but picking it up feels like really solid in hand. I'm very happy with that. I think it just has to do with how solid it feels in comparison to the other Age of Extinction toys. Like when I mess with this next to the movie The Best Leader, which is still using the same Age of Extinction plastic, it feels a lot nicer. Now in terms of the toy's articulation, it's a little strange. So you have normal joints all over the place. He is missing wrist swivels and a waist swivel, and I kind of wish he had those, especially for a character with a sword. But you have a lot of range of motion in the arms, but the backpack severely limits how far the arms can go back. And for a guy who uses a sword, I'd kind of wish that they could go back. The legs are not very limited in the slightest, except for maybe those little dangly bits of kibble, but he has ankle pivots, which I was very surprised to see, and above the knee swivels, so like you can actually get the knees in proper orientations when you want to pose it. So the lower body is actually really well, minus the waist joint. But the upper body, I do wish that you get a little bit more range out of those shoulders, and the ratchets don't feel the greatest either because they're just those plastic ratchets, so you know, that's something to watch out for. Transformation is dead easy, and that was the point at the time. Sure, it's not the most interesting, but it's still fun in a sense, and you can get the funniest pooth out of this guy. Also, I love how pooth has become like a term people use to describe this mode sometimes. That just brightens my day every time I see one of those. But here is the pooth, by the way. It just looks like him sitting in there. Like, it's so funny. It reminds me of Jolt's, Studio Series Jolt's, because he just looks like he's taking a bath. This one looks like he's just sitting in a chair. Truck mode is actually really good looking. Yeah, it's hollow at the bottom, but as I've said before, I don't really care. Plus, it's at the bottom, so who gives a crap? Seeing the chrome here actually makes sense. It's not tacky, or at least as tacky as the robot mode, and it really works here. If they had chromed the smokestacks, the side sections, the sun visor, that thing on the top, it would have been great, but they didn't. They silver painted it, which still looks pretty good. I honestly think the truck mode is like very well done. The blue is the same light blue they used for the first year of Age of Extinction before Takara took over and made it the more accurate looking blue, but the flames look really nice. There is this big gap in the back here that I know will bug some people, but as I said before, personally, I don't care. And the retail leader also has something similar to that, so they both have that issue. Challenger doesn't, though. Now, the truck has been alone in all of the shots leading up to this, because I just want to show you, this. This is the retail leader mold, the movie The Best version of that mold. This is Challenger by Unique Toys, the reissue of Challenger in the metallic colors. And this is the first edition. It's fucking huge. It's massive in comparison to the other toys. Sure, it's about the size of Revenge of the Fallen Leader Prime, I think. I don't have that leader anymore, and I replaced my MPM Prime with Challenger. However, I am eyeing this one up because of how disappointed I was with the actual mold they chose for the premium finish one. But this truck just dwarfs any other mainline toy I own, and for 33 bucks sealed, this was totally worth the price of admission. It also has rubber tires, and none of them have cracked since 2014, so they've lasted pretty good for a while. But I just love the way the truck turned out. They got the side pipes here for the smokestacks. The canisters don't stick out and look horrid. The Western Star logos are picked out quite well. The coloring is really nice. I do wish the trailer hish was picked out in paint, but oh well. Truck mode is definitely the best part for me. Its size, its shaping, its paint, it's all done very well. Some people may complain about the random bits of blue on the smokestacks, and I thought the same way as well until I got it in hand, but that's because these are hinges and they fold in. And when they do so, these parts of the smokestacks that are blue rub against tabs for the truck mode, for the stuff to stay in place. So if they were silver, those tabs would scratch the paint off. Sure, they could have designed it a little bit better, but that's the reason why those blue bits are there. Now, I wanted this. I wanted this so much because I hated high school. Like, I've blocked most of my high school memories out of my head because high school equals depression for me. And I had, and still have, severe anxiety when it comes to tests and shit. So exams were always rough for me. And in 2014, when I had exams, my mom knew I was going to struggle with them because I was always scared of doing exams. I mean, I passed them all, but still, it was rough. So at the end of my last exam, she drove me to Toys R Us right after it, and I bought every single figure from Wave 1 of Age of Extinction. Every single one. Even the little Toys R Us 2-packs they had, like every figure, except Bumblebee, because they were all gone by the time I got there, because, you know, Bumblebee is a very popular character with the kids. And that's why, even though Age of Extinction's toys weren't great, they mean a lot to me. And this toy was one of the ones I could never get during that time period because it was an Amazon exclusive. And at the time, Amazon Canada was really bad at having exclusives. I mean, they're still bad now, but not as bad as they were before. Like, I don't even think we got them until, like, much later. But that's basically why I wanted this toy so much, and why I want the other two versions of it, because of what this toy line means to me. It was my escape and my reward to myself for getting through that tough time in my education as a kid, and I've wanted this toy more than most for a while now. So I'm so glad to finally have it. My collection did not feel complete without having at least one of these primed. Now, does that mean you should buy one? If you really want to. I mean, like I said, it's not a great Optimus Prime toy by any means, but it's definitely not the worst one. If you want a weird and funky Prime, then you can get it for pretty cheap on eBay like I did. But I mean, just get the actual leader. If you want to spring for a bit more cash, then get the Caliber Optimus with a detachable backpack, or the movie The Best Nemesis version. Those two are the same toy, basically. Or if you want to spring even more, then you can go get Challenger, because they've reissued that, and then there's a knockoff that's slightly bigger as well. But I still like this toy regardless of its flaws and how plentiful those flaws are, because there are a lot. But if you can, like, find it complete maybe for 10 bucks, then I'd say jump on it. I wouldn't pay more than like 30 if you really wanted it, because I paid about 30 for it sealed. But there are plenty of other better Knight Optimus Primes out there if you really want one for your collection. So I would say maybe skip this one. But that's been my look at first edition Leader Class Optimus. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.